So it's 2025 and it's May. We've just made it through Mother's Day and a full moon at 22 degrees Scorpio. And we're at 22 degrees Taurus, Sun. Our next big astrological event, as far as I'm concerned, would be Aries moving into Saturn. And I'm pretty excited about this. Aries moving into Saturn. What can I say? So it'll be there until September. And then it will retrograde, and then it will go back and stay in there, stay in Saturn, Aries, in February, and it will stay there for a while. And it's the first time in a long time, at least a couple of years, that we've had Aries in Saturn. So what does this mean for you, for me, for us, and so on and so forth? So look in your chart, in your birth chart, or you can look in your progress chart, or you can look in your family's chart as well, and you can find where do you have Aries in your chart. If you don't have any Aries in your chart, as far as Aries in Jupiter, or Aries, the moon in Aries, or Aries placed in any particular places in your charts, you can also just look at your first house as well, because your first house will be affected, because the first house in anyone's chart is ruled by Aries. So personally, I have Jupiter in Aries, and it is in a part of my chart that has to do with the general public, and less of my private life and more of my public life. And for me, the way that I have learned over time, it takes time to learn on a physical, kinesthetic level how these particular things pertain to you personally, or how they feel to you. And you learn that through experience and having a variety of different experiences that you can compare. But for me, Aries represents instinct, and Saturn being in Aries represents how we're tested and how we master instinct. I look at Saturn having been in Pisces as a test of our faith and a mastery of our faith. So it was a time to really be practicing our meditation, and it was a time to be practicing what we believe in, what we have faith in, and drawing boundaries around sacrifice versus not sacrificing, being open to knowing that there's always more to know versus knowing that we know things on an intuitive level, and honoring our intuition. So that was Pisces and Saturn. There were a variety of things of the nature of Pisces to be tested and to master. Some of those things could have been getting in touch with the archetype of the victim. We all, some theories and some philosophies say that we all play three roles at any given moment in time in our life, and some of us are constantly going back and forth between these three roles. Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey, and part of the hero's journey is recognizing these three roles, and the hero's journey is part of any story that you watch, any movie that you watch. You can follow all the steps of the hero's journey. They're already mapped out, and it's pretty amazing when you take that map and you place it over any movie or story. You can see how it plays out according to the format of the hero's journey. Well, in part of the hero's journey is recognizing that sometimes we play a hero, sometimes we play the villain, and sometimes we play the victim. And it's about the human experience and getting in touch with all three of those things. And getting past the shame, or getting past the ego, or the attachment to one versus the other. So part of the archetype of Pisces is more of a victim. Aries can have a little bit of that as well, but can also tends to, in the master narratives and even in the fringe narratives, tends to coincide a little bit more too with the victim, with the villain. If you think of trailblazing, or you think of the new frontier, through the storyteller's eyes, when they're then on a new path, everything's new to them. So whatever happens can be affecting them through their eyes only, but whoever was there before them could see them as, well, what are you doing here? An intruder. So even though we may be starting on new portions and new journeys for ourselves and new portions of our own journey and new experiences for ourselves, we must always remember that it's not just all about us. That's one of the lessons of Aries, is to learn to balance. So I'm looking forward to Aries in Saturn. I feel hopeful. I feel that Aries gives me a lot of energy. I have a lot of water in my chart and air, so things can get pretty cold and cool. And I'm an incredibly emotional person, but that emotion can be very much hidden under the surface. And I feel like fire energy kind of warms me up, and I'm looking to harness that Aries energy, and maybe you will as well. And the way that I look at harnessing Aries energy during this year of the snake would be to look at how Aries represents the body. It represents our physical form. It represents being embodied. It represents physical movement. And it also represents relying on our instincts. So yes, we can make mistakes with instincts, but there are those of us who have been through the entire season of Pisces being in Saturn, and that gave us the practice of our spirituality and listening to our soul. And part of instinct is in the soul, if you think about it. Animals, that live off of their instincts. Here, take a look at the ocean for a minute here. You don't have to look at me the whole time. So, nice, beautiful setting sun. So animals, when they're living off of their instincts, are doing really well. They're living their purpose. They rely very well on their instincts. It remains to be seen, or it can be debated upon whether animals have a soul or not. I believe in animas theories and ideas, and I feel that most things are sentient, most beings are sentient. So for me, I feel, in my personal experiences so far, that my instincts can be rewritten and have been rewritten. So I feel that instincts, which is something that Aries rules, we come into this world with instincts. And those instincts are in our DNA, they're in our cellular memory, and they're consisted of a lineage of experiences that those who came before us had, especially those who came before us in our DNA chain. But DNA can be changed, and not just through creation of new species, but through specific things that we can do in this lifetime. And I love that that's been discovered. So knowing that DNA can be changed and that instincts are a part of our DNA, that has taught me that I can reprogram my own instincts. There are Bible verses and stories that talk about, in the New Testament, about being born again, about rising up from the dead. There are these themes that tend to have a very springtime type story around scorpionic influences, and we're in a full moon right now of Scorpio. So these scorpionic influences have to do with the death, life, death cycle. And this death, life, death cycle is very much a part of the year of the snake, but it's also very much a part of regeneration, cellular regeneration. The ocean teaches us a lot about cellular regeneration. People have been studying octopi and how they cellularly regenerate, and they've been creating medicines from that. But also, cellular regeneration happens in our bodies every single day. We shed all of our skin cells, enough skin cells to create a whole new person on a regular basis. This happens in our own bodies. So as our skin cells are dying, we are regenerating a whole new set of skin cells. Skin cells. Whether you choose to use that sinfully or not, whether you choose to buy into that original sin theory or not. But this idea of regeneration, which is so popular in springtime, and we are at the end of our springtime. If there was a third decan, if we thought of the seasons as decans, this would be the third decan of spring. We would be in the higher degrees of what this season teaches us. And what this season teaches us is that we can be reborn again, that things are up here to die, but then they are reborn again. We turn to dust, and then we go back up into the atmosphere and turn back into star matter again. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. Huge helicopter. Big Brother's always watching. So yeah, there's no such thing as privacy. No matter how scorpionic this full moon may be, and no matter how many secrets they tell you that Scorpios have, and no matter how much they tell you Scorpios want to hide and they want to keep to themselves, there's no way to ever keep to yourselves. There's always somebody going by. And you'll be really high up in the air, above the ocean, and there's still always somebody right there. Oh, here we go again. Are they coming back? Okay. So, back to the point of Saturn being in Aries. So I was talking about how Saturn went through Pisces. So Saturn in Pisces, I see this happens during the end of winter. Pisces season is at the end of winter. And it's at the beginning of spring. But where I'm at, it really feels like it's the end of spring. Spring starts in March, and it ends in June, and summer begins in June. So we're at the third decan here of spring. So if things are constantly dying and being reborn, then an Aries would be the reborn. Pisces would be the time where the spirit is deciding in that liminal space before being reborn. Okay, when I go back into the video game simulation, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it like this, and I want to have this experience and that experience. And some of you might remember what that was like before you came down to this planet. However that played out for you. You might see it as like a video game. You might see it in other ways. You might have different information. Here we go again. More, they're going by a lot tonight. Okay, so you've spent your time in meditation programming for this time where you're going to come down into this instinctual body, this body that just knows what it needs to do. And in the beginning, it might seem as if there's not a care in the world. And in the tarot deck, in the story of the tarot, which is the archetype of all of the things that humanity goes through, it's the story of everything, that's represented by the Fool. And the Fool is often depicted as a man holding a stick with a sack at the end of it and a little white dog, and he's going along a cliff. Without a care in the world, he's completely unaware that he could slip off that cliff at any moment in time. So when you first start off being reborn, you don't necessarily have any fear. And that's one of the things that I really like about Aries energy for myself and my Jupiter in Aries. I've gotten to have a lot of time in my life where I haven't had any fear. It's not until I got older that I started being more careful. So while Aries is in Saturn, which will happen in about a little more than 15 days. We just had our full moon, and it's happening around the new moon. During that transit between now and September, some of us might be learning how to not injure ourselves. Just like that depiction of that person on the cliff with their little white dog, and they're just starting off their journey without a care in the world, completely unaware of what pitfalls may lie in wait. And then some of us have already learned that part, but there's other things to learn. So some of us have already learned things like, let's say, for example, one of your goals for the year of the snake is to shed weight. That's a pretty common goal. Most Americans that's a goal that most Americans want to have. Personally, I want to shed body pain, so that I'm able to feel as good as I can feel in my body and do what I want to do with my body. So let's say you have some body goals for the year of the snake. You want to shed some things that have to do with your body. And what a visceral time to be doing that, because the snake moves with its entire body on the ground. It's very connected with the earth. And you're in this instinctual zone where you're being tested on your instincts. And how well will you have faith in your instincts? So maybe you've never had a body injury before. This might be the time that you get body injuries. Or maybe you just haven't learned the lessons and paid attention from the body injuries that you've had. And you'll learn that body injuries slow you down on your goals. But maybe there's other lessons that are completely different. Maybe the lessons are not so much about disconnecting from the body when you're working out and then coming back into your body after you're done, but maybe the lessons are about nutrition, what to put in your body. Maybe the lessons are about how your body feels around certain people. Maybe the lessons are about learning about autoimmune things. That's a big thing right now. A lot of people have or are being diagnosed with autoimmune things. Maybe some of the lessons are about learning about the environment and what kind of things in your environment affect you in different ways. So between now and September, you're going to have that chance to get a kind of a preview of what kind of things you're going to be tested on. It's kind of like if you're showing up to a new class, there's going to be like an overview. So you're going to get an overview of the things that you'll be tested on, and then you'll have a chance to, between September and February of next year, really meditate on those things. Like, what is it that you want to learn? And when you meditate, when Saturn is back in Pisces between September and February, remember that you are one of the many programmers of the matrix, okay? So as you remember that you are one of the many programmers of the matrix, think about this. How do you want to program your matrix to be? What do you want to learn? Maybe you've wished that money grows on trees. And maybe one of your goals that has to do with the year of the snake, and one of your body goals has to do with needing money to be able to get what you need to be able to meet that goal, then during that time between September and February, you're going to be meditating on visions of that sort of an idea, money trees. Or maybe there's something else that you want to believe is true. Personally, for me, I've just recently come to the realization for the first time in my life that physical pain has been something I have lived with since at least the age of 4, and it has been a very extreme physical pain that not a lot of people have. But I was in denial about it most of my life because society and culture and the people closest to me that I had been born instinctually to learn from taught me to suppress the listening of my body. They taught me to suppress listening to my body and my body autonomy. So part of my lesson on this journey has been to reprogram myself through meditation and through getting in touch with my body on what it is to be embodied and what it is to listen to my body and how to move according to my own rhythms that work best for me. So part of my journey has been, I've been thin, I've been an athlete, I've been fat. I've gotten to have this experience of knowing what things are like from inside and outside of various boxes and inside and outside of various cultural beliefs around the body. So one of my goals may have to do with now learning something else about that. But what can you think of would be one of your goals? There's a good chance it could have to do with the body. So what kind of beliefs do you take for granted? You could look in your chart and you could see where Pisces falls in your chart or what's in your 12th house. What's in your 12th house could give you an idea about what you are imprisoned by or what type of institutions you tend to be in the most. And if you want change or you want to have a new experience in this lifetime without leaving this matrix through the physical body death of more than just shedding your skin cells every day, if you want to start a new life in some ways, some of the things to be looking at in your birth chart or your progress chart or so on and so forth would be that 12th house, which is ruled by Pisces. Because whatever's in the house of Pisces follows Pisces rules. Just like, your grandparents, you go to their house, they have their rules. Or your aunts or your uncles, their house, their rules. You ever hear that my house, my rules thing? Well, that's how it is with each house in astrology. So look in your first house and look in your 12th house and get an idea. You can do this between now and the next new moon, which is at the end of this month. And then you can feel it out instinctually. And while you're journaling between now and September, ask yourself, what are these things? Especially between now and the end of May, because it's going to be a little harder after May to be reflective, because you're going to be more instinctual. You'll be less like the reflective water and more like the crackling fire is what you'll be tested on. So think about it now. What kind of things have I been programmed with, or have I learned that these are the way things are, but I would like it to be different? There's this show called The Magicians, and I loved this show. I thought it was adorable. And I watched this as an older person because it took me a long time to be able to get to go to college. I thought college was a frivolity, and I worked myself to the bone a lot of my life, and then I got an opportunity to get to go to school, and it was the best thing in the world that could happen to me personally. But so I watched the show The Magicians while I was going through college experiences, and it was absolutely wonderful. The last show, this is a spoiler alert, the world has crumbled and they're about to build a new world, but at the same time they're saying goodbye to the world as they know it. And that's kind of like what our bodies go through regularly. We shed all our skin cells only to make more skin cells. I don't know why. So I don't want to say incel because nobody wants to become an incel. Don't be reborn into an incel. Skin cells. So on the last episode of The Magicians, a character is sad, and one of the characters says, it's okay, it's okay to say goodbye. Just recognize that you're going to say goodbye to the things that are not supposed to be part of the new world as you know it. Every day, the sun sets and we're rebuilding a new world. The next day is a whole new day. This life, death, life process that is of Scorpio, it's in everything. The life, death, life process, and we don't need to be so afraid of it. But the thing that was my favorite was, he says, so what do you want the new world to be? Instead of focusing on what you're so sad about, the old world that it won't be anymore, what do you want the new world to be? And she's like, well, I really like pizza. And he's like, okay then. And she goes, yeah, I think I can handle a new world if there's pizza in it. So this big scorpionic full moon with black moon Lilith has also had like this dark side of the moon. From the new moon up until this full moon, there's been a lot of fears around anything that has to do with the life, death, life rebirthing process, especially in regards to relationships and groups and how they relate to each other and the interdependence of groups. With all of that fear and all of that, remember, this is the most natural thing in the world. It's literally our whole planet is based off of the life, death, life process. And remember, there's always pizza tomorrow. So, think about what kind of things, maybe you were programmed that you should never even eat pizza. I'm in Southern California right now, and I can tell you, I was born in Southern California, and I've lived in Southern California off and on in my life, and I can tell you, I've also lived a lot of other places, and I'm really grateful that I lived a lot of other places, because I got to have a lot of other experiences too. But I can tell you that there are people that, are taught that they're not allowed to ever have pizza, that pizza is bad and evil and naughty. But maybe that's a belief system that you want to change. Maybe in the new world that you're creating, maybe that is not, maybe that's not true. And I'm using I feel like these are basic, simple things, but, Aries has to do a lot with the body. So it could be other things, though. It could be whatever it is for you. So think about that for you. What is it for you with your body that you want to change? Because this is a great opportunity. What is it that you've always been told about your body? Maybe you've always been told that you'll never be fast enough physically. Maybe you've always been told that the only way that you're ever going to get that adrenaline high and those endorphin rushes is through this particular type of activity. But maybe there is another type of activity that would actually make the body move in a different way, that would give better ideas or less stress in the body. Just think about what it is for you. What is it with you and your body that you want to change during the year of the snake? And what are some old habits and patterns that you want to let go of, and you want them to just fall off as easily as a snake sheds its skin? You have until now and the end of May of 2025 to figure out, what have you ever been told that you wish wasn't true about your power in regards to your body and your body autonomy? Because body autonomy is really, it's a concept that is outside of the box as we have known it before this year. Before Pluto moved into Aquarius, we were not about body autonomy, but I can tell you that Aquarius is all about body autonomy. Aquarius is that star that fell down to earth, and it has its body, and it wants to own its body. It knows that it came from God. It knows that it came from the stars and the heavens, and it knows that it has a right unto its own. So, focusing on your body. What have you ever been told about your body that you wish wasn't true? Or the rules about your body that you wish weren't true? As long as it harmed none, I'll just throw in that little disclaimer there. And by harming, I don't mean, like disappointing someone. It's nobody's business how you use your body. By harming, I mean, you're not going to be messing with other people's bodies, but you're going to be owning your own. So as in owning your own, between now and the end of May of 2025, what have you ever been told that you wish wasn't true about what's possible or impossible about your body? Oh, a very big one that a lot of people have been told is lazy. You're just lazy. That's something I remember. Louise Hay was a teacher who had a pretty miraculous life of healing, and she talked about how the word lazy was not even a part of her vocabulary. And I followed in that teaching, and wow, my life changed so much when I stopped, in a really positive ways, my life changed when I stopped thinking that lazy was actually a part of my vocabulary. I just took that out of my vocabulary. Another word that she takes out of her vocabulary, or that she took out of her vocabulary when she was alive, was should. She would say, don't be shooting all over yourself. I love that. So think about that. What are the belief systems that you want to change in regards to your body autonomy and what's possible with your body in your vessel? Because it is your vessel. Between now and the end of May. And then you're going to be in it. You're going to be in that simulation, getting an introduction to what you're going to be tested on. So just be really careful after May, between May and September. Do whatever you can to be careful, but it's kind of like that movie, The Sword and the Stone, where Merlin tells Prince Arthur, don't bump your head on the way in, or something like that. He's like, watch out for that ledge, don't bump your head on that ledge, and he bumps his head anyway. So there might be some little things that happen between the end of May and September, but don't take them to heart. They were just an introduction to the work that you have to do. And then in September, between September and February, you've got your chance again to meditate again and focus and visualize what are the changes that you're going to have in regards to your body autonomy, because that's wherein all freedom lies.